Alright guys, I hope you're all doing well and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be the Dark Elves led by Catholic facing off against the Lizardmen, who are going to be helmed by Iskander here on one of our new maps, which is certainly very cool. So as far as the layout of the objectives go, we do have objective 1 and 2, which are right down the line here. So going to be doing kind of, standard archer pushes. Like if you were playing Cathay, for example, you could kind of forsake the side objective and just do like a big armored battle line push up the middle. Or you could play a little bit cagey with like faster chaos factions, have some like tanky elite characters, like let's say aspiring champions and Aecold over here while you hold your back objective. And it's a really cool dynamic map. This one is completely line of sight block for the most part. You could maybe creep some artillery back here, like a single catapult and move it here, but even still, probably would be better on the middle. Very, very cool map. Now, as far as the Dark Elf build goes, it's going to be the Supreme Sorceress of the Darkness, going to be dropping Soul Stealer, and yeah, unfortunately, after the nerfs to Malekith, this character basically has the same stat line as Malekith on the Dragon. I believe he's a little bit better in some regards. He does have the Gaze of Malice, and I think maybe a slightly better combat stats, can't quite remember, but yeah, basically this is the more meta choice, which is the Supreme Sorceress of Darkness. We got a couple Shades as well. Shades are okay against a couple targets on the Dino roster. Very excellent against Kroxigors, as well as any big monsters that they can get their sights set on. And honestly, their DPS against like ground-based troops like Saurus isn't going to be terrible either. Over here, we do have the Scourge Hunter Chariots, kind of an old classic, more from the land battle days, but I do like the single Scourge Hunter to just kind of poke into Ancient Salamanders. Granted, not the tankiest piece, could get taken down by the combined fire if it's not being paid attention to. And for the Dark Elf Infantry Corps, just going to be a combination of Bleak Swords and Corsairs. Blackheart Corsairs trade very cost-effectively into Saurus. Granted, I believe they do lose head-to-head, but they do cost, a bit less. So it's not the worst trade in the world. Now, looking at Iskander's army, very much a Tim the Wilder kind of style. It's a lot of skirmishers with the double Ancient Salamanders, and these things can be incredibly nasty. Their damage against infantry packs is just really good, and honestly, they're not terrible fighters either, but you don't want to be fighting a giant, black dragon here. That thing's going to give you the business. So the dragon is chasing. Opal Amulet has been popped, giving ward save to the dragon as it forces back the Ancient Salamander, and the Dino is going to be taking the foothold over on objective 3 for now. So Dark Elves actually look like they're going to be making a play through the woods. So they're going to be moving up to the tree line, looking to do battle on objective number 3, which should be relatively exciting. Now on the other side, we have the Scourge Hunter Chariots being poked. Really, really good skink play. So far, these bad boys have gotten probably about 150 value, 200 value. Yeah, I guess they've done some respectable damage against the Ancient Sally, and this volley can be really good. That's super, super good. It's pretty easy for the Salamanders to dodge those missile shots, but obviously with units being microed all over the battlefield, it can slip past you, and that was a great catch there for the Druki. More shots coming as it does retreat, does juke a large part of the salvo, and this is a situation where Malekith could be a little bit stronger because his Gaze of Malice would be able to wreck these skink skirmishers super hard and do a ton of damage, but it looks like Feral Cold Ones do make contact with the Shade, so they get into melee, and these are just basic Shades, so they don't have any special tools against these Feral Cold Ones. I guess none of the Shade variants have anything that's particularly good against these. Granted, Feral Cold Ones do have low stats, so the Shades in tandem with the Dragon should be able to deal with those. So Dark Elves take objective 2, and objective 3, owned by the Lizards on the other side, is now going to be pushed by a contingent of Druki. So here we got the Bleak Swords and the Blackheart Corsairs heading out of the tree line, looking to head to the point, and the Dinos are still waiting to pounce, being very, very cautious here. We see an entire battle line of Saurus sitting in the trees, and some Kroxigors with their spanking paddles are emerging in the darkness. Really cool aesthetic on this map. I like it. It's making for some like cagey play and some interesting kind of tactical decisions, and that's something that, I do like about Dom quite a bit, is the fact that like terrain can be involved, and more in land battle, terrain can be a bit of an issue with the the olden days. Most of the maps, I don't know what they're like now. I assume most of them are still relatively flat, but yeah, Shade's shooting away, doing some Dakib. Ancient Salamander's going to be poking back, and both sides have gotten some pretty good value. It looks like the Dark Elves ahead a little bit. I would imagine the Lizards do have a life slant in the trees with Earthblood, so Earthblood probably will go down to the Ancient Salamander at some point, and another Ancient Sally shot does swing and miss right there. The Shades narrowly dodge that one, as the Sally's winding up for round 2, going to be blasting some shots from downtown. Over on the objective, it is going to be taken by the Druki initially, but the Saurus do arrive, and it looks like the Saurus, are they going to have enough cap weight? Oh, he didn't move the Saurus onto the point. Yeah, all right. So the Dark Elves do get it. Bit of a misplay there. The Skink Skirmishers, if they had moved onto the point, it would have basically stopped them from capturing it. But Lizardmen will probably get this one back relatively easy. The Lizardmen troops are independently stronger than the Dark Elf troopers. Saurus are just absolute raid bosses. And Kroxigors with their spanking paddles and their bonus force infantry will be an excellent counter against the Blackheart Corsairs, which are moving into combat. Probably should just retreat at that point. So Lizards going to get this point back very, very quickly, but on this side of the battlefield, let's take a look at things. Ooh, big banishment going to be going down from Iskander here. That's very, very nice. Beauty. Right on top of those Bleak Swords, but a bit of a fighting in the tree line. Cold One Knights and Blackheart Corsairs duking it out with the Saurus Warriors, who are getting Earthblood and Shield of the Old Ones. So getting very, very spicy there. Ancient Salamanders, though, still doing great work for the dinos, nuking away on the Shades. So one unit of Shades is basically in the trash can, while the other one is in guard mode here, trying to rip shots into the Ancient Salamander, which now is going to be pulling back to the Slan, which you can see maneuvering from the tree line, is coming over to probably cast Earthblood on these Ancient Sallies, with the Cold One Spear Riders protecting as well. So Big Dragon coming in to help. Dark Elves calling in their classic units. Oh, Dark Shards. Hell yeah, I love to see Dark Shards. It's very rare you get to see them, but this is a matchup in which they can certainly shine. So there's going to be a lot of firepower coming out of the Dark Shards here as they unleash their armor-piercing Shards of Darkness, as the name would infer. Dark Riders with their repeater crossbows nuke it away onto the Croxagores. Dragon doing a great job, and massive Soul Stealer going down right here on the Saurus Warriors. Things are looking pretty good. On the side, though, Cold One Knights battling Saurus. They would actually lose that fight in the long run. Their combat stats aren't good enough to get through the Saurus, but you know, they could do a little bit of damage. But looks like the Druki do find a way to get that point back. Very, very interesting stuff. It does start to flip. Saurus Warriors still nearby, and we do see some Cold One Riders. And that's going to be a very punishing awakening of the woods. That's what she said, as it does do some good damage for a low-tier damage spell. That was a lot. That was a lot for sure. Back on the other side, a little bit jarring, flying all around the battlefield. We do see the Shades moving up and continuing to try and drag down the Ancient Sallies. But the Lizards do have a little bit of play here between the Croxagores and the two Ancient Salamanders. They might be able to move up and just take that. A huge Ancient Salamander shot does land right on top of those Shades. Very, very nice. And now the Shades are going to be trying to hold against the tide of the dinos that are moving that way. Over towards Objective 3, Lizardmen do still have it under their control. The Dark Elf missiles were looking good, but now they're going to be compromised. Saurus came from the other side of the woods. I know this map's very dark, but you can see them moving through. And they were able to push back these Shards of Darkness, so both of the Dark Shards are going to be on the retreat, while the Cold One Knights are just holding back the tide in tandem with some of the Blackheart Corsairs. This will probably still be a favorable fight for the Druki, though, because the Corsairs will trade very well. Also, there's a big Terror route, and the Soul Stealers are going to be brutal. Dark Shards have also gotten back online, so I can see this objective going back to the Dark Elves here, but the home point getting a little bit dicier here for the Old Catholic, as we do see the Croxagores and Feral Cold Ones overwhelming the very tattered defenders. It's basically just a couple Dark Riders here and Cold One chariots, or excuse me, Scourge Runner chariots. They're not going to stand up terribly well, while the Old Sallies, yeah, they're just still getting there. Probably about 800 value, I would guess, on this one, 771. All right, let's see if I can get the other one. I would say probably around the same would be a fair guess. Yeah, so at this point in the game, they've done decent damage, and if they can just pay for themselves, that's great. Also, they're still capture weight. They're still sources of terror, if I'm not mistaken. They do cause terror, and yeah, they can move up and do their thing. So on the other side, we do see the Dark Elves start to flip the point, but Lizardmen are certainly known for their fast capture weight. They do have these Skink cohort javelins. Going to be throwing those fat javelins into the Blackheart Corsairs, and also the Cold One Knights are now going to be perusing up and getting ready to party. As far as the backside goes, still a little bit of fighting here. The Dark Elves, like I said, were able to win that engagement. The Saurus Warriors here are shaken and stirred. The Shield of the Old Ones, one of the only things keeping them in combat, as the Dark Shards still able to pretty much freely shoot, which is very cool. Probably not much on them, I would guess. They were kind of partially shooting at various points and didn't seem to be getting in there 100%. Breath attack maybe from the Dragon. Looks like it's kind of winding up for it, and that's going to be pretty nice. Could pretty much half health this unit here. And we do see the Skink cohorts get absolutely wrecked. And if the Dragon just moves in, it's going to be an instant terror route. And that's the power of Dragons. You know, their ability to just do shock damage with breath attacks. Certainly more relevant than they were in Warhammer 2. Dragons in Warhammer 2, they were kind of more of a meme in land battles, although Imric was still, Imric was even considered a meme for a long time compared to some of the other options. It was basically in land battle days, it was just Hilariel. Like, she was just too good. Like, her healing is just nuts with the, but yeah, I don't know. The Dragons, I guess, in terms of, like, positional play and, like, knocking things off certain points where they need to be, makes them a lot better. I don't know what the current meta looks like now. Obviously, single entities are one of the most polarizing things in this game that just have always been, you know, one of the reasons why rules have to exist in land battles, because of the single entities. But Feral Cold Ones here, getting broken. Probably going to break back here. Dark Elves moving up with their tattered remnants. So the Bleak Swords and the Corsairs have finally made it to the point. And now we get the Colossodon Hunters coming in, the big ones, yeah. And the Toad Rage has popped. If this Dragon does get trapped here, it could take a shit ton of damage, but it thankfully gets a very lucky attack animation, which should help it escape. And now it's going to be able to get away, probably casting a Soul Stealer on those Ripperdactyls. Home point taken by the Dinos, though. Very, very well played. Cohorts on their way up. They're going to be quite numerous and tough to get rid of. In the backfield, we do see the Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, putting some firepower into the Croxagores, which have dove pretty deeply into enemy lines. As now Dark Riders move up, Dark Riders will do pretty good against Feral Cold Ones. It depends. Murderous Prowess is active for another minute. So during that time, the Druki are going to be drinking that purple juice here, and they're going to be very, very strong. So Bleak Swords moving up. Lizardmen do have their cohorts, which are trying their best to break through these Bleak Swords, but those Bleak Swords didn't hear no bell. Sitting there at about 9 leadership, cutting through a fair amount of these Skinks, actually, or at least their HP. Now the big Dragon character does find an Ancient Salamander. Going to be getting a good landing here, but gotta watch out. We do have the big flyers coming in from the Colossodon. As far as points go, we do see a Scander up on points. Lizardmen have had the advantage on objectives for quite some time. A lot of beat up Dark Elf units here could be in danger. Like if one Kroxigor or a couple Feral Cold Ones were able to move on this point, for sure could lose that. And now it looks like the Druki are going to be consolidating their forces and trying to get this middle point back as the Bleak Swords and the Dark Riders are getting ready to party. So repeater crossbows for days, shooting up into the Colossodon Hunters up in the sky. Dark Riders still unleashing some Daka as well. And here comes the Shards of Darkness trying to help, but they are going to be run down by the dual-purpose Ancient Salamander. Not terrible in melee. Probably going to be able to kill a fair amount of these models and then also get a Terror Route as well here in a hot moment. They're very fast. Allies, I think, have like almost 80 speed, so they're fast boys. Colossodon Hunters getting karate chopped. Now that's going to be a big momentum shift. Those are incredibly expensive units, and they just basically got eviscerated, did a little bit of damage, maybe like 1,000 value, only 600 here. And yeah, that's going to give the Druki a ton of momentum. From here, the Dark Elf is probably going to be able to move up towards Objective 1. As far as the side point goes, the Dark Elf units are holding well. While that Murderous Prowess is active, of course, they're quite strong. Plus 15 leadership and vigor. It replenishes their vigor, gives them damage. It's insanely good, but it's now worn off, so the Dark Elf power spike in this battle is going to be diminished a little bit, but the Lizards are probably also running out of steam. The Slant of Life has been casting heals and Awakening of the Woods to trigger the Life Bloom passive on the army, getting the army-wide healing, but Homeboy's got to be running out of Winds of Magic, and the thing is, that's when the Dragon character can really shine, because it's still a big combat dragon who is going to be an absolute menace, right? Dark Riders swooping around the side, hunting down the Skink Skirmishers, and here they come. So Dark Riders moving up, Bleak Swords hustling towards the back point. Feral Cold Ones being called in, but Feral Cold Ones will not kill these good quality Dark Elf Troopers super quickly. And I can see Objective 1 maybe flipping here depending on the micro. Probably should move these Dark Rider repeater crossbows over to the objective here, help them against the Cold Ones. The Lizards are coming up with the core of Skink cohorts, but yeah, they're not going to do super well here. If the Dark Elves send like anything here, even just some Dark Riders, although Dark Riders could probably be overwhelmed by the sheer numbers. We'll have to see. Cold Knights maneuvering down. We do see the Supreme Sorceress of the Darkness looking to get some terror routes and break down the Ancient Salamander. And here it does get the, not the kill on the Salamander, but it does get the break, which is going to be very nice, continuing to take damage. And now Dinos might be able to flip this objective. It depends on how much damage the Supreme Sorceress can do. Good instinct here, really good by Catholic. He goes in the sky, and he's probably going to do a breath attack as well. Yeah, there's the breath attack. I was wondering where that was. And the Skinks partially dodge it. They were on the move, and they kind of need to be lined up a little bit. But they're going to come and try and salvage this point. And there could for sure be a mass terror route here with that rear charge coming in. Skink leadership is down to 8, and terror route's going to be 1, 2, 3 seconds. Actually, just straight up break. Wow, nasty. And then we'll see if the other Skinks can hold their leadership a little bit more firm here. And if that does flip, that's going to be a pretty big play for the Dinos as the home field objective now in a little bit of danger. Feral Cold Ones as well as more Feral Cold Ones on the way out, and the Dark Rider repeater crossbows, they need to be moved up on the objective right now. They could flip that objective twice as fast. It would just be so strong, but again, they're probably a little bit focused on trying to hold the side objective, and the Dark Elves pretty close to doing it. We have the Cold One Civil War here. Team Cap versus Iron Man here. Cold One Knights battling it out versus the Cold One Spear Riders, and yeah, it looks like the Cold One Knights, I believe they have a little bit better stats, but their HP is a little bit less. I'd have to like do a direct comparison side by side, but wow, the Druki hold that objective. They managed to rout off all those units. That is a huge win for the Dark Elves, which is going to be buying them quite a bit of time. That objective doesn't end up flipping, so the Dark Elves don't get that one. On the backfield here, we do see some Shades being called back in, so some good quality units, and the Shades will be able to pick off anything trying to get that objective for now. As the cohorts, their bronze shields will not hold up to that firepower, that is for sure. Slan moving on to the point. He does provide a little bit of cap weight, which is nice. Dark Elves sprinting in with some Blackguard. Okay, I like the late game closers, but guys, it's getting very, very tight. The Dinos might be able to get this out on points. It is getting razor close. So the Blackguard Corsairs trying to take down the Skink cohorts moving in. Dinos with a lot of speedy capture weight. Skink cohorts and Skink skirmishers all have 5 capture weight. Dinos don't actually have any expendable tier units, so they can certainly cackle pretty hard in that regard. So here comes the Dark Riders, mostly out of ammunition. The Dragon character does come in and help the Cold One Knights defeat the Cold One Spear Riders. And now I would suspect that the Cold One Knights going to be moving down towards the point to help out a little bit. Where are these Dark Riders going? They don't really have ammo. One of them could be unsummoned or just using melee to kind of battering ram things. Here we have the Bleak Swords still trying to threaten the point here to the best of their abilities, but they are at 1 leadership, looking a little bit flimsy. Couple haggard Dark Riders. Man, this is such a pit fight over here. There's all these beat up units fighting. This is a really good match. Super close. The map is, I think, really contributing to it too. Like the nature of the battlefield, I think is really interesting. If only CA would give us new things. We have to pretty much take everything into our own hands these days, but it is what it is. So Shades shooting away here and doing some damage. And the Bleak Swords maybe going to get that point. Wow, that is a really good flip here. as we do see some more panic cohorts coming out, as well as Saurus warriors. These Colton Riders definitely should be used as a battering ram to stop these guys from getting to the objective, because they're very, very quick. These skinks do have almost 50 speed. As far as the side goes, Dinos are holding on to this one. Dark Elves desperately skirmishing, trying to get this one back, and the Blackguard finally have arrived to the point, but they might have trouble getting rid of all these skirmishers and the Banana Toad here in an expedient manner. On the side, we do see the Dark Riders being caught by the Feral Cold Ones. A little bit of a lapse in micro, and some of these guys do end up getting hunted here. Dark Riders for sure are going to be losing that fight because they are the Repeater Crossbow variant, not the combat variant. But now we see the combat variant coming in, as well as the Bleak Swords and some Corsairs. This back objective is being controlled here by the old Dark Elves, and they might be able to hold this one with some efficiency. As long as the Shades start shooting into the Saurus warriors as soon as they get in range, the Corsairs and the Bleak Swords probably can defeat that cohort in combat. We'll have to kind of see. And now the Shades, they still have their sight set on the cohort unit, which is pretty close to being broken, actually. It's actually shaken here. So we'll come back to that combat here in a second. Over towards Objective 3. Yeah, now this is a triple cap situation for the Druchii. If the Dark Elves, the Dinos, excuse me, manage to hold on to a point here. But I mean, if the Dark Elves get the points back for even a second, it's going to be completely changing that paradigm there. So Dark Riders running down Skink Skirmishers on the side. Halberd's going to be cruising for a bruising. As Corsairs get there as well, the capture weight does start to flip, so now the Dark Elves do officially have the capture weight advantage here. Certainly going to be seeing these Skink Skirmishers get pushed back. And how are the old Shades doing? Yeah, another Bleak Sword unit did arrive. I didn't see them coming, but it looks like they were called out of the Deep Reserve and did march their way over here. But they should be able to hold back the Saurus Warriors for a long time. Bleak Swords do have good stats, and the Shades nearby also can fight in melee if need be. So I think that the Dark Elves probably going to get this one because they're going to hold the triple cap long enough to be able to win on the double cap pretty easily here. And then from there, I think the Dinos are going to be out of steam. We do see them kind of pushing up, and did they just break those Bleak Swords? How did they break them so... Oh, they didn't. Okay, I thought that was the same unit here. The banner was a little bit confusing, but overall, Shade's going to be microing back while the Bleak Swords hold back the tides of Saurus Warriors. Waves and waves of reinforcements coming out. Dark Riders. Objective 3 firmly under the control of the Druchii, and now the Dragon character is coming over here, which is probably going to seal the doom. It's going to be able to get big terror routes, and yeah, now it's basically a double cap situation. So the Dark Elves, I think, 1,000% have this one in the bag. We'll watch this for a second longer here and see if there's going to be any schemes or any weird plays that can go down here. But Shade's pulling back, kiting the Saurus Warriors a little bit. And here the Bleak Swords holding these guys back on the point. Croxigors with their spanking paddles going to be moving up. Huge value lead, though, for the Dark Elves. And yes, there has been a lot of healing for the Dinos, but this value lead is pretty substantial to the point where that healing probably doesn't mitigate that. And even here, I would suspect we're going to see a tap out soon. We'll do a little bit of fast forwarding as the units do arrive. The cavalry get up to the point, and the Shades just peppering away into those guys. No more magic for Soul Stealers, but you could see they've surpassed them in points. The Druchii have like good shielded units on this side point here, including elites, and that is it. GG, well played. Really, really good match. Cool tactics. Good back and forth. Kind of looked like both players were in a winning position at one point, but the Dark Elves played patient, accrued that value lead, and had the confidence in themselves to move up and take those points in the fourth quarter, which I thought was pretty rad. As far as value, Colton Riders did really, really good. Repeater Crossbow Cavalry obviously generally pay for themselves. They're one of the best units on the roster. Dragon character was the raid boss, about paying for itself. Dark Shards even did good. That was neat. Now for Salamanders 1500, one of them kind of got shut down a little bit or didn't have as many good targets, it would appear. Saurus Warriors, absolute raid bosses. This was a big momentum shift when they summoned out the Colossadon Hunters to try and kill the Dragon character, and they just got like gooned. That was a big value shift on the battlefield, which I really felt that was the momentum point there. So yeah, anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. GG, well played. See you on the other side. And that is going to be it for tonight.